All right, guys, welcome. We are here with my man Anand from Underdog Strength, and we got a couple of questions that we're going to ask. But before we get into that, thank you for joining us on the Ranbir Sangera strength, fat loss, whatever topic I want to talk about show. So welcome. We're going to get into it. Anand, thanks for coming by.
Thanks for having me, Ranbir. And thanks for inviting me to San Jose Barbell. This is just a great facility to train at. Even though I don't live here, but I would love to train at a gym like this.
Thank you, appreciate it. That's hopefully, if and when you move out here, of course, doors always open. So Anand was here. What was that, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So 2 weeks ago, we recorded YouTube for his YouTube channel about overhead pressing, and so a little bit background before I let Anand tell us a little bit more is, we're very similar in a lot of regards. You're 5'11"?
5'10". Yeah.
So I'm 5'11", and you're 160 or one?
Yeah, about 160.
160, I'm 153-ish, whatever.
Yeah.
And so, and pretty strong guy, very strong guy. And so it's really cool for me to be able to share people's stories that kind of show that you don't have to be a giant, humongous meathead to be strong and healthy and ripped and in shape and all that kind of stuff. So, that's something that I think is really cool. So, well, first and foremost, why don't you tell a little bit about your background, where you're from, and then how you ended up getting into lifting weights and all that.
Sure, yeah. So I'm Anand, and I was actually born right here in the US, in California, in Orange County actually. So my parents used to live here, but my grandparents were back in India, and they were really old, and there was no one to take care of them, so they moved back to India when I was about 3 years old. So pretty much grew up in India for the most part until I was about 21. Went to school there, went to my high school there, and grew up in I would say, typical Indian household. My family is actually vegetarian because my family comes from a state called Gujarat, but I grew up in a city called Mumbai, which is one of the largest cities in the world.
Yep.
And there's even though most people don't know about India, is that it's still a very diverse country. There's because each state has their own language,
yeah,
and eat cuisine and all of that stuff. And one of the things that's common about growing up in India is that, or even Indian parents abroad, is that there's a huge emphasis on you need to study and focus on your studies, right? And
above everything else, that's the number one thing.
Yeah, and it was crazy because I remember I used to go to school every day, then after school I used to go for classes every day, and there was no time to do anything else, including physical activity. And I've always enjoyed eating a lot, and if you're growing up in India, especially with the family, you kind of force fed all the time. And because of a result of a lot of these things, having an extremely sedentary lifestyle and just eating a lot of food, I was extremely overweight.
Yeah.
And even as a teenager, I used to weigh over 275 pounds, 280-ish, I would say. And it wasn't a good time.
No.
And not everyone was overweight, but I think I was probably the fattest kid in my whole school. And it wasn't a good feeling at all. Because you couldn't find good clothes that would fit you, and it was frustrating because it's not that I wasn't aware of this.
Yeah.
And in fact, I tried to lose weight so many different times, but back when I was a teenager, we didn't have all the information that we have available today. So especially there was no social media, stuff like that.
So when did you come? What age did you come back to America?
I was 22.
22.
Yeah.
And so your entire teenage life was in India.
Yeah.
What age? And by the way, just to like bring this point because completely forgot to talk about this, but you lost over 120 pounds, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So pretty amazing, and obviously kept it off. And this is not one of those yo-yo things. Like this is never gonna go back. So you came here at 22. What was the first time you remember, or what age do you remember being like, oh, I don't like this. Doesn't feel good. Like, why am I overweight? What I don't like what's happening here.
It was as far as I can remember, to be honest.
So you always kind of knew that.
Yeah. I can't remember a time in my life where I wasn't fat.
Yeah.
Because I was always this chubby kid, and it just kept getting worse and worse. And I was like bullied for it.
Yeah.
Especially in India, you don't see a lot of fat people. Like at least, I mean, things are changing now.
Now more and more, not back in the day.
Yeah, and it was like people, just random strangers, I would walk down the street and people would just make fun of me, laugh at me.
Yeah.
So I was very conscious of it, and I was conscious of the fact that people are like making fun of me and all that. So that also kind of pushed me into a lot of like social isolation.
Yeah.
Because then I was trying to avoid people. I didn't have a lot of friends. And the other thing was I was always aware of and worried about what other people thought of me.
Yeah.
But I had tried to lose weight multiple times, but every time I would lose a little bit of weight, I would just gain it all back.
Yeah.
So that was a huge struggle for me, these cycles of yo-yo dieting, where I would lose 10 pounds but gain back like 15 to 20 pounds.
Yeah.
So every time I tried to lose weight, I ended up fatter and fatter.
What kind of stuff, what kind of things were you trying and to lose that weight?
Yeah. I joined a local gym back in India, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I just listened to whatever the local personal trainers, or not even personal trainers, just in India, these gyms have just general trainers that help out everyone.
Yeah.
So that's something different over here, right?
And they don't know anything. Like absolutely nothing.
They were telling me to do all these starvation kind of diets and doing a lot of cardio, which is what I did, and that definitely works because that puts you in a caloric deficit. Anyone can stop eating and just do cardio, but then what's the end result and what happens after you stop doing that? That's the key. And when I figured that out, I was able to not only lose all this weight, but I was able to keep it off.
Yep. That's huge. I mean, I have that specific conversation every single day, and I'm glad to have that conversation because that's the whole key. Is like every time you restrict or do something that's extreme, just by the nature of it, you feel shitty while you're doing it because you're like, I can't eat anything. You feel guilty if you do eat something. So when you do something that makes you feel bad, you set yourself up for the rebound where you're like, fuck it. And then you don't know why the weight is you're losing the weight. And if you have to keep that up for the rest of your life, like you're going to go crazy. Yeah. So then you just feel like, a piece of crap, and then you just eat everything.
Yeah.
That's the story of literally, I don't know how many people, like millions and millions of people, right? Maybe even billions, I don't know. But, and it's interesting because I was on the exact opposite side of that, where I was always the skinniest and weakest kid. Would you say you were weak too? Like
I was pretty weak.
Yeah. So like I always say, people say, oh, it's about being skinny. It's not about being skinny. It's about being strong.
Yeah.
Like strength is the key.
Oh yeah.
And whether you're skinny or fat, like your goal is to get to the right weight for your height and then get strong.
Yeah.
But for me, it was always like everybody would make fun of me for being the skinniest kid. And I remember all the time, like any family thing.
Yeah.
Did you guys speak Hindi?
At home, Gujarati.
Gujarati, okay.
Yeah.
Well, for us, it would be like, anytime and this was all the time, because obviously Indian culture is very family and friend oriented. Like, oh, you're so weak and unhealthy. You're so skinny. You need to eat. Don't you eat? And that just like, bothered me to like I'm sure it had part of the reason to do why I wanted to continue to get stronger and be muscular. But it was not long story short, it was not a good feeling, right?
Yeah. But it's funny you bring that up because that was one of the things that I had to deal with while losing weight, because even though I was so overweight and I would lose like 5 to 10 pounds, and I still had 100 pounds to lose.
Yeah.
But people were telling me that I'm getting skinny.
Yeah.
And you need to start eating. And there's this resistance, right? And, I don't want to call people haters, but that's just what you have to deal with. Because when people see you changing, it's like it puts pressure on them to evaluate where they're at, right?
Yeah.
So instead of changing themselves, people try to bring you down subconsciously, whether it's your friends.
Yeah.
So even your friends will tell you never come out to eat anymore, and you're on this diet, and stop dieting. And
it's really funny. And so even to this day, now, I mean, I'm interested to know what your response to that was before.
Yeah.
Because before, so I was always active. I played basketball from age 6. I played in high school. I played in college. I was always the weakest kid. But like I was just smart and I loved basketball. So I could play. I just, it was fun.
Yeah.
But long story short, before when people, I'd be like, what do you mean? Like I play college basketball. Like, yeah, I'm skinny and I'm weak and I'm skinny fat and I have a belly, but I was like, I'm active and healthy, right? Or I thought. And it used to piss me off. Now, literally last week, I have a guy who works at one of our family businesses. He's a little skinny guy, Indian guy, never worked out in his life. He probably is like 130 pounds. And he told me, do you understand Punjabi a little bit?
I do, yeah.
He's like, "Bhai, tusi ta bahut made ho gaye, tu ta mere naal bhi mada ho gaya." Basically, what that means is like, you've gotten weaker than me. That's what he told me. So so I just laughed my ass off because it's just funny, because that's just what kind of people do. And this is the little piece of advice, and you tell me what you think. But if you are in the process of changing yourself, let everybody else off the hook. No, it doesn't matter what they say. And just be okay with whatever is being said, because don't allow it to put you in a bad mood. Like that guy said that to me in the past, that would make me feel angry, which is a bad feeling. This time it made me laugh, because literally the day before I had deadlifted 435 and I'm like 155 pounds.
It's like 3 times body weight.
Yeah, pretty much 3 times body weight, and it was like a chill deadlift.
Yeah.
And so I laughed, and that's the response you gotta have, and you gotta have that faith to keep doing what you're doing. So I'm interested in hearing what you think about that.
One of the most important things you can do is learn to say no.
Yeah.
And in Indian culture it's different, right? Because people over here are pretty open about their communication. They're pretty assertive as well. Whereas there, you're like, I have to respect this person, especially if it's like a family person.
Yeah.
Or you can't say no if someone's offering you something to eat. It's just part of the culture, right? So it's different, but you have to stand up for yourself, because if your goals are important to you, then you're gonna have to learn to say no. Like whether it's people are asking you to eat out. It doesn't always have to be that way, but for the most part, especially when you're pursuing something, and this can apply to anything, right? There's people are gonna grab for your attention. They're gonna throw opportunities at you, whether you're trying to grow a business. But you have to learn to filter it out and say no when it's time to say no.
Yeah, and it's like, at the end of the day, what is the worst thing that's gonna happen? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you can get to that point where like you just feel good about everything, and you find a reason to feel good, everything just kind of becomes easier.
Yeah. And the other point I want to bring up is a lot of the people who are like initially very skeptical or negative, eventually when they saw like the end result of things, these same people came to me for advice.
How many times have you had that happen?
Multiple times, including my family members.
And then do they listen?
That sometimes they do, but they do listen, but then they don't take action, because they're trying to find out, here, what you do,
What's the secret?
What's the secret? And then sometimes I feel, wait, this person seems genuinely interested. Let me break it down for them, and let me explain exactly what I did. And I explain it to them, and they have this weird expression on their face where they were expecting some sort of shortcut.
Magical secret.
Yeah, like tell me what protein powder to do. But it's when I tell them it's none of that. It's the basics. You gotta learn to eat right for your goals. You gotta strength train. That should be the main focus. And then if you need to do cardio, you can do that. But people don't want to put in the work. They're always looking for that shortcut.
Yep. That's literally what we were talking about. So before we started the podcast, we were talking about, people that we listen to or influence us. And I was just saying, it's like, I kind of filtered out and stopped listening to most people because they make things more complex when the answer is eat the right amount of food, try to eat real food, because that makes everything easier.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with eating hamburgers. I had a coffee cake this morning.
Yeah.
Strength train, and then do those two things for a long time, aka the rest of your life. Like, that's the secret.
Yeah.
So.
And I do online coaching, and I have to remind my clients. And one of my longest, I've had this client for about a year. His name is Dave. He lives in Kerala, I think. So shout out to Dave if you're.
Shout out.
But he's a super dedicated guy. I really like working with these people.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like a double-edged sword, right? Because then he goes like me, because he tends to overcomplicate things because he reads something.
All right, so you were saying.
Yeah, so Dave sent this post to me, and he was like, the science-based Instagram page was like, if your whey protein doesn't have 2.7 grams of leucine per serving, then it's probably not worth it. And Dave's like, hey, my protein only has 2.7 grams of leucine. I'm like,
it's ruined. Everything is ruined. Yeah.
I'm like, is that 0.1 grams of leucine gonna ruin your results?
Like, that was the missing piece. Yeah. No, I mean, but to Dave's point, or in support of him, when we have so much information, and if you're not very confident and have faith in what you're doing, it's easy to be like, oh, this guy's jacked, I need to listen to him. Oh, but that guy said this guy said that. And so my clients now, we've been doing this for a long time. Like, they know better. Like, if you're working with me, you know why you're working with me, because we're going to give you the simplest, most effective thing, and we're going to keep you on the track. One of my favorite quotes is, the goal is to keep the goal the goal. And so that's from Dan John. Shout out Dan John, one of my biggest influences.
Some great books though.
Amazing. And all in the line of like keeping the goal and making things simple. But it's a constant reminder, and this is a great skill to have, even for like, I use this on myself all the time. It's like, hey, what was the original goal here? And am I still doing stuff that supports that goal? And I'm not going to get bogged down in the weeds in like all these details, because there's actually only 1, 2, or 3 things that matter, So that's hilarious. I've received posts and links to things in the past, and I'm like, I just kind of laugh. I'm like, yeah, if you want to find out the 1.1 gram of leucine, go for it, Meanwhile,
I mean, I'm a huge fan of the 80-20 rule, and for those of you who don't know what that rule is, it's 80% of your results are gonna come in from 20% of the work you put in, or 20% of the things you do. And then if you want to get 20% of the remaining results over the 80%, then you're going to have to put in 80% of the work. So you decide what do you want to focus on. Do you want to focus on the 20% that's going to get you to 80%, and then evaluate if you want to put in more work? And even if you get 80% of the results, it's going to be so impressive compared to
everybody else.
Because most people don't even have like 5% of the results.
Not even. That's one of my favorite things. And so the way that we talk about that is like, it's the trivial many versus the vital few. And so, and I would even say like, sometimes, it's called the 80-20 rule, but I would even say it's like 97-3 rule. You know what I mean? It's like 3% of the things that you could be doing right now will give you 97% of the results you're looking for. And the list is long of all the shit that people focus on that doesn't matter. Supplements, food timing, cardio, the list is endless.
And I can't tell you how many times people ask me for advice where they're focusing on the wrong thing. Instead of asking me things about what's your training like, or, what's your nutrition like, or anything like that, they ask me what kind of supplements do you take, which doesn't matter if you don't have the other things in place. So it's just something to keep in mind. You gotta find out what's like the 3% that's gonna drive the needle.
And I feel like for us, we're the type of people that, and I feel like most people want this direction, but they just don't know. They're confused. Is like, it's so stressful to think about 500 things to try to move towards a goal, when out of those 500, if I knew the 3 things that mattered, then I'm like chilling. All I gotta do is eat, track my food, and lift weights with good form. Then you literally don't need to worry about anything else. You know what I mean? What were some of your like influences growing up as far as like that made you want to get in shape and pursue strength training? Because for me, I mean, this is why, I don't know if that angle can see, but we got Arnold up here. We got random picture, but we got Arnold, we got Bruce Lee, we got Sylvester Stallone, Jason Statham. Like, these guys were the reason that I was like, oh, like I want to look like that, or I want to get strong and ripped. What was your influences?
It's funny because even before I knew anything about fitness, I used to watch these exact guys. I would say Arnold, Bruce Lee, and Stallone specifically, because I'm a huge fan of the Rocky movies. And the whole reason why I even named my brand Underdog Strength is because Rocky is like that ultimate underdog story, right? It's about rising to the top. And I used to watch that movie over and over again, and my mom was like, why are you watching the same movie? And I used to watch the movie only to watch the training montages. So that was like so deeply ingrained into me. But I was like, if I put in the work, I can achieve the results I want. And I remember in December, I was in Philadelphia, and I actually ran the Rocky steps. It was such a surreal moment for me, because it's like I've been watching these steps and training on these steps.
Here you are. And by the way, you achieved those goals too, you know what I mean? So that's a very interesting point, because it brings me to what I think is like the most important thing, which is your thoughts become things. And if you never think about what it is that you want, and you're always thinking about what you don't want, you're going to get what you don't want. You have to think about what you want. So that's amazing, that as a kid, you would watch that scene over and over and over again. And here you are, you're super lean, you're super strong, like you've achieved these goals. And now you're running the steps, So I think that's a fucking amazing thing. And so that goes to tell you, like, hey, stop thinking about what you don't want. Start thinking about what you do want,
But to add to your point, what actually made me take action, because you follow these guys, but then there's always a lot of negativity around this. People are like, but those guys they all take steroids to get their results, which may be true, or you can't be like them. So that for a while, that kind of made me complacent, because I was like, maybe they're right, maybe it's just not for me. I don't have the genetics to do it. I've
been there.
So I remember a time where I was so complacent, and it was for a short phase of my life. I was like 14 years old or something, still in school, and I'd pretty much given up on things. Like I'd accepted the fact that maybe I'm just supposed to be fat, or how people say I'm just big boned, which is not the case for me at all. I have really small bones, but I was complacent, and that was like the worst time of my life, because then I was never actively pursuing anything at that time, and I was so dead inside. And I think I was about 17 or so when I was like 125, 130 pounds, something. kilos. So whatever that is in pounds. So
It's like 250, 260.
no, it's like 275, 280ish pounds. I was like 17 probably, and I happened to come across I just started visiting sites like bodybuilding.com, and again there was some good information back then, but mostly that's bad information.
There's a lot of garbage on there.
And I was like, I didn't really know what to believe, because there's articles contradicting each other. But then there was this video I came across, and this was before YouTube, and it was called Inside the Life of a Natural Pro by Lane Norton. And I was like, what's a natural pro? What's a natural bodybuilder? And I clicked on the episode, and as soon as I saw the first minute of it, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
Because this guy not only looked good, had a super impressive physique.
Yeah.
But he knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And if you don't know who Lane Norton is, he's pretty big on Instagram and YouTube these days. And because he's been consistent with his message, but he's also been one of the smartest guys out there when it comes to the whole evidence-based fitness community.
Yep.
And I'm so glad I found people like him, because then through him I found other people like Eric Helms and other super smart people who don't just say something because they feel like it, they have evidence to back it up. But at the same time, these guys are practitioners.
Yep.
They aren't some guys in a laboratory just looking up different research studies or people
They're
who just
doing it.
Yeah, they actually compete at the highest level.
Yep.
Whether it's bodybuilding or powerlifting.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I found those guys, that was a game changer.
Yeah. And I think that's an important point as well, which is like, there's a couple important points that brings up. One, it's like, you got to be really aware of where you're getting your information. So I have a list of criteria or checklists that I say, hey, if you want to get good at something, follow this checklist when you're going to try to find who am I going to listen to. Mm-hmm. One is, does that person practice what they preach? Mm-hmm. That's first and foremost. And it's like, if they're not doing what they're telling other people to do, then that's bullshit. That's straight up. Yeah. Then is they have results, right? They're good at what they're talking about. And then it's they have helped other people do it. So they have predictable, repeatable results with other people. Mm-hmm. And then the last thing, I think this might be the most important thing, is that do you get a feel that you like and trust them? Mm. So that's super important, because if you don't like and trust somebody, why would you listen to what they're doing? Yeah. Or what they're telling you to do? Yet I think people do this all the time. Mm-hmm. And so this is one question that, comes up when I'm talking with people, if they want to join the program or whatever. I'm like, look, first and foremost, do you trust me? Because if you don't trust me, I'm not going to work with you, because it's not going to benefit either of us. Yeah. So the second point that kind of brings up is evidence-based gone too far. Yeah. So we were kind of talking about earlier, it's there's people who are evidence-based, but then they complicate things so far, it for the regular person. And I consider myself, we've gotten some pretty crazy results, but we're regular people. Yeah. We weren't in a family of athletes. We weren't genetically athletic or whatever. We created what we wanted, which is available to every single human being. Yeah. So, when I start hearing somebody talking about, you need 0.27 grams of leucine, and then you need X, Y, and Z, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, that's too much. Yeah. This guy is getting bogged down in a bunch of bullshit when you can boil everything down to, the simplest things, which we already covered. Yeah. We already gave away the secrets 5 times. Yeah. But one thing I read recently, it was a quote, but I forget what it was. But it's the true master's training program is going to look like the simplest thing compared to everybody else. Mm-hmm. And so the more advanced somebody is, the more simpler the philosophy and the training and the nutrition that they're doing. Mm-hmm. And so like that's been mirrored for me, and I want to hear what you want to say about that. But like my training has today, it's boiled down to I squat every day, I deadlift most days, I press, and I row, and I do random body weight stuff just because it feels good and that's important. And that's it. And people are like, so what I need to switch up my exercise, I need to do this, I need to do cardio. I'm like, well, I walk. Shout out to the 10K step squad. I walk a lot, and I like to play basketball. And so that's literally as complicated as it needs to be. I would love to hear like your evolution of training from when you started to today.
Yeah, 100%. And it's interesting you bring this up because yesterday I was cleaning out my apartment, and I found some notebooks that had my training logs from like 2011, 2012. And fortunately, I came across the right information early on. And even though I had to go through a lot of failures, but still, you know, I still saved myself a lot of failure and disappointment because of these people we just talked about. But my training hasn't changed that much. I was looking at my training logs, and I'll put a screenshot of it over here. But it's like squats and bench press and dumbbell press, or deadlifts or pull-ups or chin-ups, and you just keep doing that, and over time you just gonna get better and stronger at them.
I 100% agree. And so people say, oh, what should I do for fat loss? What should I do for gaining? And I'm like, squat, deadlift, press. Squat, deadlift, press. Like that's the exercise never changes. Like your body changing, like it's, you know, how it's structured. No, it's the same. And
the thing about gaining weight versus losing weight, if your goal is to gain muscle and you know that weight training is going to help you build muscle, then it's also going to help you maintain that muscle when you diet down. So why would you change anything?
Absolutely. And so the goal should always be to get stronger. And just a little side note for people who want to get stronger is like your strength is going to be a byproduct of your technique. That's it. And so technique is a skill. How do you develop skill? Repetition. So if something is important to you, you do it every day. If I want to get better at playing the piano, I play it 15 minutes every day. I don't play 3 hours once a week or once every other week. You know what I mean? And so people don't look at strength like that. They look at strength as some like brute force, like shit. No, it's a art. It is a technique. One of my, do you know who Richard Hawthorne is? One of my favorite guys to listen to because he exemplifies this to the highest degree. Real quick, Richard Hawthorne, probably pound for pound the strongest guy on the planet, has deadlifted over 5 times body weight, just ridiculous things. But that's the kind of stuff that he teaches, and unfortunately for a lot of people, they don't want to hear that. They want to know, what is the supplement I should take, Anand? What is the secret? Just fucking tell me already. Quick question. What was your favorite training montage out of any movie?
Probably was Rocky 2, to be honest.
The one where he's fighting Apollo and wins this time.
That's right. But that movie has 2 montages with 2 amazing soundtracks. So the first soundtrack is called Going the Distance, which was, again, the what Rocky was trying to show is going into his first fight, he knew he wasn't going to win against a champion, but he was like, no one's even lasted 15 rounds against this guy, so I'm going to go the distance. You know, and it's going the distance is like what you need. That's the mindset you need, because, you know, one workout isn't going to produce any results, or 1 week or 1 month, but if you keep at it for, you know, at least like a few months to a year, you're going to be way ahead of most people.
100%. We always say this is like, no one ever got fat eating 1 Twinkie, and no one ever got skinny eating 1 salad, you know? And here's something that might be hard for people to understand, but like, once you realize that all you got, and this was the change. I'd love to hear if you remember the exact moment for you, but the day it was like a period of time, but the thought in my head was like I was tired of not getting results. I literally spent probably 10 years of my life not getting results, and then 3 years where I got results, but I didn't know why it was working, and I was injured like crazy. I was always hurt. I looked good, but I was hurt, which sucks. It's not, I mean, it's better than not looking good, but you know. So the thing was, it's our local street racers, but the thing was, damn, now I forgot my
so you said 3 years where you were injured, you still look good.
Oh yeah. So the thing that clicked for me was that time where I remembered, or I accepted this thought: I'm doing this for a 5 to 10 year plan. Automatically, like, that set me in the right mind frame to just show up 3, 4, or 5 times a week. And then I no longer needed to get in shape for summer. I need to get in shape for this and that. Then I know it's like Dan John calls it, punch the clock workouts. I'm just showing up, punch the clock, move on. You know? Do you remember what it was, if there was a particular thought or a moment that kind of made things click for you?
You know, for me it was a little bit opposite, because I knew my goal was so large. I knew I had to lose over 100 pounds, and oftentimes that can overwhelm you and make you scared. But instead of that, I focused on what I need to do this week. So I really broke it down to weekly goals, and I'm like, okay, so I need to lose 100 pounds. I'll give myself a year, and that comes down to 2 pounds a week. So then what do I gotta do to lose my 2 pounds? You know, create that 1,000 calorie deficit. And you know, how do I create that deficit? I'm gonna cut back on my food, like 500 to 700 calories. I'm gonna do 200 to 300 calories of cardio every day, and just focus on my next 2 pounds. And then momentum keeps you going, because every week I saw my weight going down the scale. So it's only 2 pounds, right? But I knew that if I just keep going, it's that compound effect. Like, eventually I'm gonna get there. But I didn't focus on the eventual goal. I was focusing just on the next step.
That's another really good point, is we're always looking for the answer. And so the methods are many, the principles are few. And so if you can master the principles, right, then you can pick whatever method. And for me, it was the opposite, because I was always looking for like the quick, you know, I remember reading stupid magazine articles back. I remember one, this one always stands out. It was add an inch, I think like up to 2 inches to your biceps in 24 hours.
It wasn't Men's Health.
It was in Men's Health or something like that. And I remember I went to the YMCA. It was like a 24-hour protocol where you are literally lifting for a large part of the day. And I don't even remember what silliness it was, but like, obviously it didn't work. It was stupid. But like, that was what I was doing. I was like, oh, the 6-week program to gain 30 pounds of muscle. And so for me, it was the opposite. But once the principles were the same, once it clicked for us, which was, hey, I'm going to do the right stuff, eat the right amount of food, train for strength, and do that. You know? And so that's dope. So what time period did you lose that weight? How long ago was that?
I started around 2010, I would say. Like, I mean, I tried to lose weight a bunch of times. I first started going to the gym when I was like 13. Because that was like the minimum age to join the gym. But I got some results. I lost like 20 pounds. I was feeling good. I was nowhere like lean or anything. But in school, I remember people were like giving me more attention, and I was gaining a little bit strength. You know, and I actually went from being the fattest guy in school to being the strongest guy in my school. But then I came to...
How did that feel, by the way?
Oh, that was like the best time of my life. Getting a lot of attention from girls as well. And no one wanted to mess with me. Even the bullies that I had growing up that made fun of me, they never wanted to mess with me. And there was just and I was pursuing this goal, right? I mean, I used to sit in class all day in school, and I was always looking forward to my workout after school. So I used to go straight to the gym, and I was like, I can't wait to get out of school and go to the gym. And it was just the best time of my life, to be honest. But then I entered what's like 10th grade in school, and in India that's like you need to perform for your board exams for your 10th, so that you can get admission into what is called junior college, which is high school, like 11th and 12th. And my parents said, you can't go to the gym anymore, you gotta focus on, this is the year you have to make it. And they would,
your whole life depends on this 1 year.
And they didn't pay for my gym membership. And that's when things went the complete opposite, because I was like losing all this weight, I was feeling good, I was feeling strong, and I completely cut it out, and I came back all the weight and even more. And it wasn't a good time at all, because I remember even my school uniform didn't fit me anymore. And then we were like, I only have a couple of more months to go for the school to end. I'm not gonna buy a new uniform. And I was literally bursting out of my old uniform, and that got the stress from those studies, and it was just a bad time. So what was the question?
So when did you? So like you've kept off over 120 pounds. More than that, right? Yeah, just about. So when was the start of that? Like, where you finally everything clicked? How long ago was that?
That was probably 2010. I started when I was like really started on this journey, like really figured it out. Not figured it out, but at least I was on the right path when I was like 19. So I'm 29 now. Okay.
So you've kept this. So when did you get down to like 160, 170?
That was 2013.
So you've kept this off for like 5+ years now.
Yeah, 6, 7 years old.
That's pretty amazing. So this statistic always sticks out. Like it's like 85% of people who lose weight gain that much or more back. And so that's insanity, but it's very simple. It's because they're doing things that are stupid, and restrictive and hardcore and extreme. And so that's very important. I would say, the next thing that I would ask is, who is, I'm going to go ahead and guess it's Rocky, but like, who is the guy that you admire, whose physique you admired the most, like growing up? Is it Rocky?
To be honest, I never thought that I want to look exactly like this guy. I was more intrigued by their mindset. For some reason, like all of these guys, I was never like, I want to look like Arnold exactly, or even Rocky. They were inspirational, their physiques, that I could look somewhat like this. I never really looked up to people's physiques, to be honest. I was just intrigued by the mindset, and I still am, I still study them as successful people, like whether you're talking about Arnold and, where he came from, Austria, and then became the highest paid actor, biggest action star of all time, governor, whatever.
Everything he wanted to do, pretty much.
Or even like Stallone, right? Like he I believe half of his face is still paralyzed, and people made fun of him for his he couldn't speak properly. So I think I was more intrigued by that, and the physical part is just a manifestation of the work and their mindset, I would say.
I 100% agree, and it's really interesting to look at that side of the equation. One, I think when somebody is able to do that physically, it gives you, and this was another question I wanted to ask you, but when you gain that physical strength and you see what you have done, it gives you strength in so much other areas of life. It gives you confidence. Like you said, like you became the strongest guy in the school. All of a sudden, you're a completely different person, right? And so that's something that people kind of forget. They're just focused on the look, and there's so much more that you get out of achieving these goals, right? That I would say are even more valuable than the look. The look is great. It feels amazing, and everybody should experience it. But
Yeah, I can tell you without a doubt, I would be a completely different person if I hadn't pursued these goals.
Yeah.
You know, it's not.
Do you
just,
think you would have been? So obviously, you're watching this on YouTube. Do you think you at 275, if you would just kept going in that path, would you be doing a video a day? Would you have the confidence to do that?
No, like totally not. You know, it's just, you know, achieving these goals, whether it's a small goal or a large goal, it kind of motivates you to achieve other goals. You know, like so. Momentum. Yeah, exactly. Like I met. Do you know who Evan Carmichael is? On YouTube?
Yeah.
So I got to meet him in February because he was doing an entrepreneur meetup. He had one in San Jose, one in San Francisco, and one thing he said was focus on getting. So anything you have an idea, you know, I want to achieve this goal. Just focus on getting your first 2% goal. And I was so happy he said 2% because, you know, my goal was exactly like 100 pounds and 2 pounds a week.
2 pounds.
So focus on what's gonna get you that early 2% victory or towards your goal, right? 2% results. Because if you can get there, then you can build momentum from there.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing, and that counting those wins, and that's why, you know. So what and people say, oh, what is San Jose Bar like? Yeah, it's not a gym. Like, yeah, we're a gym. We teach strength, and we're very good at that. But it's about becoming the best version of yourself, and you know. The way everybody always talks about that, but nobody like, where's the practical stuff? Like nobody knows what steps do I take, and I think you hit it right on the head. To become a different person, and that's what you're saying. Like you want to be a different person. You don't want to be the old you.
Oh yeah.
You have to start to focus on the wins because the human culture or whatever you want to call it, or people in general, we focus on the negative, and that keeps your momentum in the same direction. And in order to slowly start to turn that around, you have to start counting the wins, no matter how small, no matter if it's 2 pounds. So I think it's great that he said focus on your 2% wins, because slowly that begins to reprogram your subconscious, and you know, it literally begins to change you as a person, and you become a different person. You can't get those goals while you're still the same person. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to add is, if you think that your life is not where you think it should be, you know, you're unhappy, chances are you're not physically fit, because fitness and getting physically fit or physically strong is way simpler than being like mentally strong and emotionally strong, right? But it's also the first step that you need to take, because it's the easiest thing to get started with. Anyone can go to the gym and work out, and whether you want to call it, you know, like when working out your body produces these endorphins or whatever, that makes you feel good. Achieving these goals makes you feel good, but also things like you're going to find your posture is going to start improving, and your psychology follows your physiology. And you can try this anytime you want. Just if you're feeling down or you don't feel like you're confident, just stand up straight, you know, with your chest out, with your shoulders back. Just stand like that for like 5 seconds. When you're talking to anyone, you're gonna be so much more confident, because your psychology is gonna follow how your body is.
Yep.
And strength training, actually, especially if you do it right, and not like the most of the gym bros where you only bench pressing, but you actually train your back muscles.
Yeah.
It's gonna help you with that great posture, and whether you're sitting or standing, it's really gonna boost your confidence.
Man, and I'm just dropping heat. I hope you're taking notes. There's so much heat being dropped, and man, like I do that all the time. Like I'll come in, so you know, maybe some people know or not, but I'm an actor, so like I'm going to auditions, I'm doing stuff, so I'm getting like I'm putting myself. And by the way, I'm not. People see me now and they're like, "Oh, you just must always have been like this." I am. The person I was is the most shy, scared, afraid, whatever, like terrified. I remember my first acting classes. I was like shaking and it was so embarrassing. I don't know how, but thank God I did. I just kept showing up to classes, even though it was like miserable a lot of the times because I sucked and I was so scared. But so people don't know that, but that's how I was. And now literally I'm like, I'm feeling good. I want to build, you were talking about momentum. You want that momentum to keep going because it will change you. So like, I'll walk around. I don't fucking care. Like I walk out of auditions. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not to show anybody. It's not to do anything. It's like you said, your psychology follows your physiology.
Yeah.
So I stand like this, all of a sudden I start feeling even better and better and better.
Yeah.
And then you start getting a smile. You can't not smile. You know what I mean? And then it like people pick up on these things subconsciously, and someone talks to you differently, like, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden that keeps the momentum going. Yeah. So I think that's beautiful. And so, going back to the strength question, this is one of the things, and I'm sure you've experienced it with clients as well as yourself, but when you go from, give us some of your numbers, by the way, so just so a frame of reference, like deadlift.
It's been a while since I've done like a 1 rep max, but I guess
like chill any day of the week.
For deadlifts, I've done like 5 reps with like 430, 435.
Yeah, that's fucking, so that's fucking strong. That's really strong. And also, just a side note, I know everybody just looks at these Instagram and YouTube videos and like, oh, this guy's doing 800 pounds. Like, the fuck out of it. Who gives a fuck? Like, you need to start recognizing what is like exceptional strength. Like somebody who even gets to 315, that's exceptional strength, right? And that's available for literally every man, boy, woman, girl. Yeah. And so for 435 for 5 reps is serious business. So like obviously you're super strong. Squat.
So
high threes.
Yeah. So I've done 365 for a triple. That's an RP 8.
So almost 3.5 biscuits. So plates. So if you guys don't know what biscuits are, 1 biscuit is a 45-pound plate. Okay. So that's 3.5 biscuits for 3 reps. Yeah. And feeling like 80%, that's fucking beautiful. So anyways, my question is, how has it changed your life to have this physical strength? Yeah. To go from being the weakest to literally being the strong. This is how I always explain to people. I went from being the weakest person in every room that I ever walked into to being the strongest person in almost. I spend a lot of time with a lot of strong people like ANAND here, but when in any room, I'm always the strongest person when I walk in, and that changes you as a human being. Yeah. How has that affected you and your clients, and what things have you seen?
You know, in addition to the normal confidence that you have, you know, whether you're standing with good posture or, you know, you're able to do things a bit more efficiently, you know, like carrying groceries or whatever. But that's not the point. For me, it's been, I relate everything to the gym, because every time I feel like I want to do something, but I'm feeling overwhelmed, I always go back to the gym and I think, how did I achieve this? You know, I had to put in the reps, I had to do it frequently, I had to set these small goals and keep going, right? So the proof of this is, go back to my first video on YouTube. It's terrible. I couldn't even talk for like I couldn't even complete 1 second without having to cut out some mistakes, right? And that was such a hard time. Or even before I started doing daily videos on YouTube, it's just the reps, you know, the more videos, and I knew this going in, that I suck right now, I'm so terrible, but it didn't matter, because I knew if I just keep going, keep putting in the reps. So for me, it's all about the reps, you know, getting better. And I relate everything to the gym, and that's how I teach other people as well, you know, like when people are like, you know, I'm getting stuck over here, then I like to break down goals as well, just like I did in the gym. Like that 100-pound goal is like too big for most people, but then 2 pounds doesn't seem that bad. So for me, it's just a mind shift, that's been the positive.
It gives you the confidence and the what's the word, like the certainty that if you decide to do something, you can do it. Like, that's it. Like, and how good does that feel? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know you can do something if you decide you want to do it, you know. So that's dope, man. I was gonna say what are some of your goals coming up, as far as training, with the YouTube channel? Like, what things are you doing that are coming up?
Sure. As far as my personal goals go, I compete in powerlifting. I took a break from powerlifting last year because I was kind of focusing on getting a little bit leaner, dropping down weight class. So I dropped down an entire weight class and I still maintain my strength. I have a meet coming up in 4 weeks. It's gonna be at my gym. It's a USAPL meet. So right now I'm training at a gym called Santa Cruz Strength, where I live.
Shout out Santa Cruz Strength.
Yeah, it's if you're in the area, it's the only powerlifting or strongman gym in the area. So it's definitely a great place to train. And so they're hosting a meet in 4 weeks, which is on May the 4th, which is also Star Wars Day. So I'm excited for that. Gonna probably set some PRs at a much lighter body weight.
Yep.
So I'm gonna be in the 163 pound weight class. I don't have any set numbers in mind, but I definitely this year I wanna actually squat 4 plates, weighing about the same, and who
4
knows?
biscuits.
Yeah, 4 biscuits. And I think I'm getting pretty close.
Yeah.
And for me, squats have been a struggle because I'm not exactly built to squat.
Yeah.
You know, I've got like super long legs and
that's all I was saying. We're exactly the same. And so, like, long arms, long legs, you know. Typically, if you listen to everybody else, all the experts, like, oh yeah, you know, you can't squat. Squatting is for short people. It's like blah blah blah. It's like, no, no, shut up.
So that's a major goal for me. And then, you know, long-term goal is to just get continue to, you know, build more lean muscle and while not getting fat.
Yep.
In terms of YouTube, you know, I think
there they go.
In terms of YouTube, I think, you know, in the past I was focusing more on the wrong goals. You know, I still have that goal. I want to get to my first 10,000 subscribers because that's a really good number. But at the end of the day, just like fitness, I think the number of subscribers you have is more of a side effect of how much value you bring.
Yep.
So, like, just in fitness, right? How your body looks is a side effect of how you train, how you eat, right? So I want to focus more on the process of YouTube, where I want to get better at communicating with each video. I want to make better videos that are going to provide more value. And then over time, if I do this and keep improving with each video, I'm gonna get there.
Yeah.
So that's my goal with YouTube, just to bring you guys the value. And then, you know, if you have any suggestions for me on how I can bring you value, then I would really appreciate that.
Yep. Yeah. That's awesome, and I think that's a beautiful thing, because you're sharing, you know, all the stuff that you've received from other people. And, you know, if you know, people would always talk, there's so much noise, and I'm like, you know what, at the end of the day, I'm not even worried about that. All I'm worried about, I'm not even worried about it. What I focus and think on is exactly what you said. Mm-hmm. If somebody comes on my video or this podcast, and they get something that helps them the way that we changed everything for us, like, that's what it's about. And so that's dope. Where can people find you on the internet?
Sure. So right now I'm most active on my YouTube channel, which is called UNDERDOG Strength. I have an Instagram as well, but I've actually deleted my Instagram app from my phone because I actually read this book called Digital Minimalism recently.
Cal Newport,
yeah. And it just made me aware of how many times I was just going on Instagram for no reason. So I still have my account, I access it through my computer, but I just don't have that app. So I would say at Instagram, I'm also at underdog.strength. But
come on in.
But yeah, you can find me at Underdog Strength anywhere
Yeah.
on the internet if you do a Google search.
Underdog Strength, just like Rocky. Make sure you go follow and subscribe to the YouTube, on Instagram, and then if you have questions that about strength training, nutrition, losing weight, blah blah blah, mindset, which is the most important thing, make sure you send it his way or send it my way, and let's get these gains and let's get these biscuits. All right, we got a lot of biscuits to move and not enough people moving them, so let's all work together, okay, to move these biscuits. So thank you guys for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me, and make sure to subscribe to San Jose Barbell on YouTube, because they're going to be putting out a lot more videos.
That's right.
So now there's no pressure on you to put it. And if you're in the San Jose area, then this is the place to be, San Jose Barbell.
Hey, the beautiful thing about being strong is you never feel any pressure, so bring it.